The experts are calling Wolverhampton Wanderers this year's wonder team. Here comes the magnificent Wolves movement as Burton runs in.
Wolves, the hottest favourite of year, he sends the ball to Hancock. The winger sends it back, and Pye heads it home. And again the Wolves are on the prowl. The Wolves, with skipper Billy Wright clutching the coveted trophy, return in triumph to their hometown.
3-2 to the happy Wanderers. Wolves have licked the greatest club side in the world.
The name Wolverhampton Wanderers has circled the football globe, and they've become one of the greatest clubs in the history of the game. But little could the enthusiasts of St Luke's School have imagined when they formed Blakenhall St Luke's in 1876 and lost their first match to Stafford Road FC 8-0 in January 1877, what great feats lay ahead. They played their first games on a pitch off Goldthorne Hill that has long since been given over to housing, moving to a ground known as John Harper's Field opposite the Niffon Works near St Luke's in 1879. They began to establish themselves as a strong team, and in 1880 they joined forces with Blakenhall Wanderers Cricket Club to form Wolverhampton Wanderers, and soon after moved to an improved ground opposite the Fighting Cocks pub in Dudley Road. Their growing reputation was well founded, and season 1881-82 saw them play 18 matches, winning 10 and losing only 4. They remained at their new ground for 4 years, using the King's Arms that still stands in Dudley Road as their headquarters, with occasional matches using the nearby Blakenhall cricket pitch, now covered by a supermarket. In 1883 they entered the FA Cup for the first time and won their first ever trophy, the Wrekin Cup. Wolves were firmly established as one of the leading clubs in the land and were invited to become one of the founder members of the Football League in 1888. Their first league game ended in a 1-1 draw with Aston Villa, and Wolves finished the season a creditable third in the table. They also reached the final of the FA Cup, losing 3-0 to Preston North End at Kennington Oval. The search had already begun to find a new ground to match the Wolves' status, and the club's itinerant years were over when they eventually moved to a brand new home, converted from the grounds of Molyneux House. The new stadium was opened with a friendly against Aston Villa, which Wolves, playing in their customary faded red and white stripes, won 1-0. The now famous gold and black colours didn't appear until 1891 and were sported by Wolves in their first FA Cup final success in 1893, when they beat Everton 1-0 with a Harry Allen goal at Fallowfield in Manchester. The ball used and a replica of the trophy still stand in Wolves' trophy cabinet. That FA Cup victory was so important to the town that the players, many of them local lads, became heroes, and Wanderers Avenue just off Dudley Road, which was renamed after the Cup victory, still has many houses bearing the names of that legendary side. In April 1896, Wolves again reached the Cup final, this time played at the Crystal Palace. They went 1-0 down to Sheffield Wednesday and, despite an equaliser from David Black, eventually lost 2-1. Following 20 years of improvement, Wolves' league fortunes began to plateau and even decline. In 1905 they slipped into the second division, where they remained for 13 seasons. Despite this, they again won the FA Cup in 1908, beating First Division Newcastle United 3-1 at the Crystal Palace, with Reverend Kenneth Hunt getting Wolves first and George Headley and Billy Harrison also scoring. Wolves had to wait a further 13 years to reach the Cup final again. This time they faced Spurs at Stamford Bridge on St George's Day in front of nearly 73,000 spectators. Despite their poor league form, Wolves were confident of success, but the only goal of the game came from the Londoners' outside left, Jimmy Dimmock. Wolves' league form failed to show any improvement, and in 1923 they were relegated to Division 3 North. That humiliation spurred them on, and promotion followed in the next season. Albert Legg was part of that promotion-winning side, who were all presented with commemorative watches by their appreciative supporters.
We was losing 3-0 at half-time, playing in Wolverhampton, and we went in 8.5 games for doing I think it was the major. We come out second half, we managed to win 4-3. But I was a junior professional, but I was in 1921. I was only cleaning the dressing room out, and the bath, and the players' boats. And, just tatting about, but I was a junior professional. I got £4 a week. You could only get £4 a week, £208 a year, and I had £10 for signing. And in the first division, they could only get 8 and 6. They couldn't get no more. And the £2 bonus, £1 for a draw, they couldn't get no more money. That I got £4 a week, £209 a year. And I went to my mother's in New Cross when I signed for the Wolves to show me agreement. And I was walking up the road, up the Busby Road, and that 2 old fellas come in, lived across the road from the pub, the Squirrel, a Banks's house. And a bloke named Mr. Santa and Mr. Tarbuck. And they said, "Oh, are you not all right?" I said, "Oh, all right." I said, "Oh, that played, you know." I said, "I just signed for the Wolves because I played for the Lewisham Athletic, the pub, you know, at Lewisham. And they used to come every Sunday morning and see us play." Oh, and he said, "Do you come and have a drink?" I said, "I don't drink." I did. Well, I don't drink like over 30. Or smoke. He said, "You can have a shandy." I thought, "Oh, I'll go in then." I went in with him and had a shandy. I showed him the agreement. There were stools in the Squirrel, then he nearly fell off the bloody stool. He was the bloody head blacksmith at the Culwell. The bloke was foreman over the machine shop. They was only getting £2.16.
With the brilliant Tom Phillipson leading the forward line, Wolves established themselves in the higher division. But it was to take them 8 seasons to return to their former status as a Division 1 side. That feat was engineered by one of Wolves' greatest ever managers, Major Frank Buckley, who took over in 1927. Wolves won the Second Division Championship in 1932, scoring 115 goals. In 1934, Buckley brought to Molineux the man who was to become a Wolves stalwart, both as a player and a manager, Stan Cullis. A new team was being moulded together by disciplinarian Buckley, and as they matured they took Wolves to their highest ever league finish, ending second in the First Division in 1938. The following season was to be even more successful. Runners-up in the league once more, they reached the FA Cup final.
More people at Wembley than ever before. The experts are calling Wolverhampton Wanderers this year's wonder team. And apparently the only thing the experts are interested in now is by how many goals the Wolves are going to win. No score for the first 31 minutes. Then Morgan of Portsmouth kicks a long ball down the field to Anderson. Anderson to Barlow, who left the Wolves only 2 months ago, and Barlow turns the tables on his old team to put Portsmouth 1 up. Flags flying in the Navy. 1 minute from half-time and another Portsmouth onslaught. The ball swings over from the right and runs loose to Anderson. Anderson puts it just wide of Scott's right hand and makes it 2 up at half-time. So the Navy splices the main brace. The second half opens with sensation. Anderson kicks off and within 30 seconds Barlow drives for the Wolves' goal. Scott saves, but Parker rushes in to make it 3 for Pompey. And here comes the magnificent Wolves movement as Burton runs in, and Dorset sends over a superb cross shot to make it 3-1. But Scott can't hold off the mass attack forever, and Pompey get yet another. So the end comes with Portsmouth the cup winners by 4 goals to 1.
The Second World War suspended league football for 8 years. Wolves forward Dennis Westcott scored 3 goals in a 2-legged walk-up final against Sunderland in 1942 to win the trophy. But perhaps the most significant thing for Wolves in that period was that a young man by the name of Billy Wright signed professional forms in 1941. Billy made his league debut for Wolves immediately after the war, with the team guided by new manager Ted Vizard. Wolves finished 3rd in the league that season, and Stan Cullis retired as a player. Billy Wright took over as captain, and when Vizard resigned in the summer of 1948, Cullis became the new boss. This was the start of a Wolves golden era that included 3 championships and 2 FA Cup victories.
Wolves' Billy Wright and Leicester's Norman Plummer head the All-Midland finalists onto the Wembley turf for football's Game of the Year. Princess Elizabeth is in the Royal Box as 2nd Division Leicester in white shorts, the Davids who knocked out so many Goliaths, start off at top speed. They're not afraid of the Wolf, however big and bad he's cracked up to be. In this goal-by-goal special edition, Pathé News brings you the full story of how, when giant killing was the fashion, Wolves, the hottest favourite in years, did come out top in the end. At first, Leicester do the attacking, but Billy Wright's men, cool and confident, have everything under control. And here comes the first nail in Leicester's coffin. Pye sends the ball to Hancock's. The winger sends it back, and Pye heads it home. Johnny Hancock's takes the kick. It comes over squarely. It looks perilous for Leicester. They just can't get the ball away from the danger zone. Billy Wright sends in a shot. It's only half cleared, and Jesse Pye bangs it home. With Leicester 2 down at half-time, few of the 100,000 crowd thought they could ever stage a comeback. But they reckon without little Mal Griffiths. With the ball seemingly tied to his feet, he runs through the Wolves' defence like kids through a sweet shop. A pass to Chisholm. Goalie Williams parries the inside forward shot, but Griffiths is there to send it back into the back of the net. Wolves manager Stan Cullis is getting anxious now, for this is more like the old Leicester that humbled mighty Pompey. The 2nd Division boys are giving more than they get when fate deals them a sudden, bitter blow. From an acute angle, Ken Chisholm nets the ball, but the referee rules him offside and disallows the goal. Down sink Leicester hearts, and Wolves can think themselves lucky to have escaped. They show their appreciation by some pretty cross-passing, which Leicester can only clear with difficulty. And again the Wolves are on the prowl. Smooth first-time football splits the Leicester defence wide open. The ball goes to Sammy Smythe, number 8, and it's curtains for Leicester as the Irishman smashes it home. The 2 skippers shake hands, and another Wembley's over as Princess Elizabeth presents Billy Wright and the triumphant Wolverhampton team with football's most coveted honours. Their average age 24. These young Wolves prove that England need have no fears about the future of football. With men like Billy Wright and his team, Bill Shorthouse and all, winning the Magic Cup, England's soccer glories are in safe hands. The cup has found a new lair. The Wolves, with skipper Billy Wright clutching the coveted trophy, return in triumph to their hometown. Well played, the boys in black and gold, is the cry taken up by the 100,000 crowd as the victory procession moves slowly through the densely packed streets of the Midland City. Billy Wright, a grand captain, a fine player, a wonderful clubman, did probably more than anyone to bring the cup to Wolverhampton. Wright knew no wrong, and his is a welcome richly deserved.
Mr. Mayor, Lady Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I would first of all like to thank you very, very sincerely on behalf of the players and myself for the wonderful reception you've given us this afternoon.
Jesse Pye, who joined Wolves from Notts County in 1946, continued their tradition of great strikers, scoring 18 goals as Wolves ended First Division runners-up in 1950. They couldn't build on that promise, and 2 seasons of disappointment followed, but Wolves were becoming one of the most popular teams in the country, playing in front of huge crowds at Molineux, They finished third in 1953, and Cullis had built a team around England skipper Billy Wright that was to prove itself the best in the land in the next season, as tactician Cullis achieved his ultimate aim.
Dan Cullis had got some maps, and he got plans how to score goals. And if you got from your goal area to their goal area in less than 4 passes, you'd have more chance of scoring a goal by hustling and bustling and get there. If you got 8 to 10 passes, you wouldn't get, goals as often. And that's how we wanted to play. And of course, it suited us because we had the 2 wingers. I mean, in the championship side, Hancock's and Mullen, they were unusual, Gerald, in as much the ball could come over from either wing, whether it was to Mullen or to Hancock, and they hit the ball on the volley. They didn't stop it, they hit it. Now, that was very unusual. I mean, in the great Matthews and Finney, they couldn't do that, but Hancocks and Mullen could, and that's how we used to get a lot of goals. You go past the far post, and the ball would be in the back of the net before you could say Jack Robinson. That was, I think, one of our great assets. Plus, being fit. Major liked the players to be fit, and Stan did. I mean, we trained very, very hard, running. We'd opened up, say Tuesday morning, running about 3 miles. Then you go down to a mile, then 800, then 200, and then the sprints.
With the superb Peter Broadbent in midfield and Wright in control at the back, supplying the ball to their flying wingers, Wolves produced a never-to-be-forgotten season and took the Division 1 championship in 1954.
But the 1953-54 championship, we was just a good team, and we were just beginning to get very good, and that's how it really started, because we played very well, in the first division, and we had a good team, a lot of good players.
International club football was in its infancy, but as one of England's top teams, Wolves led the way with friendly matches that attracted massive attendances. One of the first clubs to visit Molineux under the floodlights was Moscow Spartak, who were soundly beaten 4-0.
Sedov and Hancock's fight for possession, but an unfair charge by Sedov leads to a free kick. A very sporting match on the whole, with few penalties, but another free kick against Spartak gives Bill Shorthouse a great chance. Pirayev fails to punch clear, and Wilshaw forces it home. First blood to the Wolves. The Wolves pile on the pressure in the last minutes. Wilshaw draws Pirayev, but he's wrong. Nevertheless, a corner for the Wolves. Hancock takes it from the right wing. The Wolves' defence get to work and send the ball away towards the Spartak goal. Hancock has it, and there's goal number 2. A minute later, Swinburne chases a pass from Hancock, and his shot from 20 yards smacks into the net for another. With the Spartak defence thoroughly rattled by now, down swoop the Wolves again. Hancock receives, and there's the 4th goal for the Wolves. 4-0 is the final score. A superb victory that lays the Russian bogey and puts British football back on the world map.
Then came the Hungarian side, Honvéd. England had been humiliated by the magnificent Magyars at Wembley, with Billy Wright as skipper, so he was determined to restore some pride. However, when the visitors took a 2-0 lead, it looked as if his hopes were in vain.
1 goal down, Wolves hit back. Flowers kicks upfield, but only to start a movement by the Honvéd machine. So far, the visitors seem to have control of the game, but the Wolves often take some time to warm up. Now Shorthouse and Swinburne swing play round and head for Honvéd's goal. Swinburne must score, but Farrago saves the day. Honvéd are off again. The ball goes to Coxis, on to Makos. Billy Wright's in pursuit. 2-0 now after that great goal by Makos. Wolves are in real trouble, and now Budai has it. Into the centre where goalie Williams fights desperately to keep the Wolves' net clear. 2-0 is the half-time score. Honvéd set the ball rolling, but soon there's an indication of things to come, for it's Wolves who get possession. Away they go along the left wing with a determined attack. Smith shoots, but the ball shaves the post on the wrong side. That shows that Honvéd's defence isn't impregnable. Wolves right back Stewart sets his team off once more. Now incident number 2 as Kovacs obstructs Hancock's in the penalty area. A penalty, says the ref, and Hancock's takes it. 2-1, and Wolves are coming back with a vengeance. Now out to the left wing. Wilshaw to Swinburne, who makes no mistake with a header into the net. 2-2. 2 minutes later, and Smith races down the left wing. Then he makes a perfect pass to Swinburne, who cracks in his second goal. The goal that makes the final score 3-2 to the Happy Wanderers. Wolves have licked the greatest club side in the world.
Well, I think the Onvid game was one of the best that I remember about. Considering we did actually win 3-2, and they were leading 2-0 within no time, you know, of the match. But it was just the crowd of Wolverhampton and everything that made it for us, and we actually won 3-2 in the end. I mean, there were some famous names in the Onvid team, but of course there was few famous names in the Wolves team, and we've actually played well and deserved it.
Adventurous Wolves were invited to play in Russia and took on Spartak again, who exacted revenge with a 4-0 win in the Soviet capital. But against Moscow Dynamo, Wolves fared much better, losing 3-2 to a side boasting the legendary national keeper, Lev Yashin.
Now the Dynamos are attacking. A mighty sweep upfield, and Vedosov slams it home. 1 up in the 14th minute. But the Wolves aren't discouraged. They're off again. Slater has it, and he passes to Billy Wright. The Wolves skipper kicks upfield, but the Russians are on their toes and attacking again. Shabrov passes Stewart and shoots. 2-0, and within a few seconds it's 3-0. Half-time, and against such a brilliant home team, the Wolves' play has been a lot better than their luck. But they're fighting back, and at last their courage pays a dividend. From an almost impossible angle, Wilshaw scores. Goalie Lev Yashin, one of Russia's finest, didn't have a chance. At the Spartak match, hundreds left early, but no one's leaving this time. This is real football, of which both countries can be proud. A corner from Smith goes to Slater, and back to Smith, who centres. Flowers heads it to Wilshaw, who jumps, and it's in again. British football can hold up its head again. No matter what happens now, the Wolves are back in form, and the crowd love them.
When the Russians paid a visit to Molineux, Wolves evened the score with a 2-1 victory.
Dynamo are quickly on the offensive. Right wing Shabrov tries to dodge past Bill Shorthouse, but it bounces off Shorthouse, and goalie Williams clears. Now the Wolves take up the attack. The ball goes to right half Bill Slater. The Russian defense closes up, and for a moment the battle sways back and forth in the Dynamo half. Right back Eddie Stewart passes to Johnny Hancock, who shoots, but skipper Krzyzewski punts it over the bar. Wolves take the corner. Wilshaw to Slater, who bangs it into the net. 1 up to Wolves in the 15th minute. Centre forward Yuri Kuznetsov leads an assault, but Wolves' left half clamp gets it away. The Wolves attackers provide plenty of work for goalie Yev Lashnin, nicknamed the Lion. Wolves kick off for the second half, fighting to increase their 1-0 lead. Inside right, Peter Broadbent captures the ball before the Dynamo goal mouth. He passes to Bill Slater, who takes a shot at the goal, but Yashin's too quick for him. Still 1-0, but the Russians are on their toes, and this could be anyone's game. Krzyzewski loses the ball to Clamp, the Wolves' left half, and Clamp kicks away upfield. Jim Mullen has it. He shoots, and it's another goal. Wolves 2, Dynamo 0. Revenge for that Moscow defeat is really in sight. But the Dynamos aren't beaten yet. Ilyin has a try, but Bert Williams clears far upfield. A corner in the Dynamo's half. Broadbent jumps, and that was a near one. Not much time left, and Dynamo playing better than ever. The home team are being forced more and more on the defensive. And the Russian attack sweeps home, and from the very edge of the penalty box, Ilian finds the net. So it's Wolves 2, Dynamo 1, and a fine fighting game from both sides.
Cullis's side continued to develop. Imposing Scot Malcolm Finlayson took over in goal from England keeper Bert Williams. Hard man Eddie Clamp was threatening in defence, while the distinctive Ron Flowers established himself as an England regular. Bill Slater, the last of the semi-pros, eventually took over as skipper when Billy Wright retired in 1959. And with Norman Dealey on the wing and the cultured Broadbent supplying the fertile scoring talents of Jimmy Murray, Wolves raced to consecutive championships in 58 and 59.
Jones, and it comes inside of Dealey, and the Wolves now streaking down towards the Everton goal. Dealey trying a shot, and a great goal! Pass bringing it on for Murray to go for. There's Murray, and it's a goal, a beauty! And a lovely corner, a great goal by Murray! Shuffles, losing it to Murray, and there's Dealey now. Pushing it through, and there's Murray going onto it, tries it, and
We didn't think we was ever going to get beaten. And that was a sort of a relationship amongst the players that we knew. You know, we just thought that we're going to win today. It's going to be... We knew it before we went out. Yeah, well, it was lovely to sort of play in a team like that where everybody knew what they were doing and why they were there. You know, and it was great. The atmosphere in the changing rooms and everything was marvellous.
This was a truly remarkable era for Wolves. They never finished out of the top 6 in the First Division for 9 years, and for 4 consecutive seasons they scored over 100 goals.
Good evening, welcome to Sportsview. This evening, we've sent a mobile unit to Wolverhampton Wanderers, the Football League champions. And to find out what's happening at Wolverhampton tonight, we can see their training. David Coleman, please come in.
Well, now, what makes the Wolves such a remarkably successful club? What goes on behind the scenes?
Their success prompted the BBC to focus on their methods. Wolves were renowned at the time for advanced training techniques and for first-class physiotherapy. Their forward thinking on the pitch was matched off it. A young David Coleman was shown the club's plans for a spectacular new stadium in 1959. But it was a dream that would not become a reality for another 34 years.
Well, now, thank you very much for allowing us to come along, Mr. Baker. You're England's representative in the European Cup this year. The best of luck. And I wonder if that championship shield there will find a resting place here at the end of next season.
As champions, Wolves took on Nottingham Forest in the Charity Shield at the start of the 1959 season and soundly beat them.
A superb goal, beautifully taken and beautifully set up there by Wolverhampton, makes it 1-1, and that's an equaliser in less than a minute. Dealey taking this corner, the score still 1-1, Dealey for Wolves, floating it across, right there to the opposite wing to Lille. Lille pulling it back, but dangerously under the bar, and it's off Broadbent's back and into the net. Well, it was a terribly awkward ball there for Thompson to deal with, but he never looked like getting it, and Broadbent scored there with his back, turned his back on the ball and went right in. He scored 2-1 for Wolverhampton Wanderers now after 12 minutes of the second half. Now Knight for Forrest, trying to use his speed outside Jones, but Jones is too much for a shell there. Lucky to get away with that, the Wolves were. That deflection, the shell cleared it. Jones got in the way, could have gone anywhere, but Finlayson got hold of it, and now Finlayson to Murray. Murray trying to get Lille away through the middle. And Lille's clear, as Lille's clear, and what a mix-up there. That should be the goal that wins the Charity Shield for Wolves. MacDonald injured there. I think one or two of the Forest players expected the flag to go up for offside, but there's the third goal for Wolves to make it 3-1 with about 9 minutes to go.
That victory emphasised Wolves' success at every level. They'd won every trophy that their teams had entered in the 1958-59 season, except for the FA Cup. But that omission was corrected a year later when they faced Blackburn at Wembley.
I remember it was a very, very hot day. And it was, you know, I mean, it was so hot that, you know, within half an hour playing, you know, it was just, you couldn't get your breath or anything like that. But I can remember that we played very well, and you know, it's nice to enjoy something at Wembley and also to win the cup final.
Managers Duncan and Cullis led Blackburn Rovers and Wolverhampton Wanderers onto the Wembley turf. It was like midsummer as Bill Slater spun the coin. Ronnie Clayton guessed wrong, so Wolves had choice of ends for what it was worth. Playing left to right, Blackburn kicked off, and the match for the most highly prized trophy in the whole realm of sport was underway. A week ago, Wanderers had hopes of the double. Burnley stole the league championship from under their nose, but as they attacked and tested Harry Leyland, Wolves were determined on an all-out effort to take the cup back home. A header by Broadbent went over the bar. Narrow escape for Blackburn. Rovers inside right, Peter Dobing soon showed the form that makes him an under-23 international. He seemed to have a scoring chance, but Finlayson cleared. It was evident that it would have to be a very good shot indeed to beat the Wanderers goalkeeper on this afternoon's form. Leyland saved cleverly from Des Horn, Wolves South African outside left. After 41 minutes came tragedy for Blackburn. Their left half, Mick McGrath, put through his own goal. Wolves fans were jubilant. Blackburn supporters thought the goal very much against the run of the game. 2 minutes later, Rovers suffered sheer disaster. Dave Whelan broke his leg. There really must be something about this Wembley turf. This was the 7th serious injury in 9 finals. Wolves kicked off in the second half, leading 1-0. Blackburn were reduced to 10 men, a handicap rarely overcome in a big match. Leyland fumbled and Wolves centre-forward Jimmy Murray netted. Before Wolves fans realised it, the goal was disallowed offside. After that let-off, Blackburn took up the attack. Blackburn pressed again, but Finlayson was safe as a rock. Wolves captain and centre-half Bill Slater was fouled. The referee gave an indirect free kick. Rovers, with only 10 men, found the going heavy. Outside left, Des Horn tried to beat the defence all by himself. And nearly did. Now Dealey had a try and scored. Two down, Blackburn seemed in a hopeless position, but still had a lot of good Lancashire fight left in them. With luck, they might have scored in a storming attack on Wolves' goal. The irrepressible Dealey was the biggest headache that Blackburn goalkeeper Harry Leyland had in this phase of the game. And what a headache. The little winger now got Wolves' third goal. At the final whistle, Dealey deserved his congratulations. Wolves had won 3-0, and Bill Slater led his men, a proud captain indeed, to the Royal Box. From the Duchess of Gloucester, he received the cup. Footballer of the Year, Bill Slater, had now achieved a captain's highest ambition. Congratulations to this wonderful club, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
And so say all of us, was the verdict of Wolverhampton people when their heroes brought the cup home next day. It was cheers all the way from the station to the town hall. 11 years ago, Billy Wright came back with the trophy, and this makes it the 4th time Wolves have won it. Outside the town hall, they could hardly have squeezed one more into that 100,000 crowd. This is the year in the footballing life of Bill Slater, a triumph at centre-half, an inspiration as captain. Bravo, Slater, and his Wonder Wolves.
We nearly done the double, actually, you know, and there was a, I forget who it was, lying second in the league that year. And they, I mean, it was Manchester United or Burnley beat so-and-so and so-and-so and left us 1 point behind.
A poor start to the 1964-65 season, which saw Wolves collect only 1 point from their first 7 games, meant Stan Cullis was sacked after 30 years' service at Molineux by new chairman John Ireland. Their names ironically now appel adjacent stands at Molineux. New boss Andy Beattie took over, and Wolves set off on an FA Cup run that saw them beat Aston Villa in a second replay at the Hawthorns, and then face Manchester United in the 6th round, unfortunately losing a thrilling match 5-3. But league form was still disappointing. Astonishingly for a team that had dominated the previous decade, Wolves were relegated that season to Division 2. Former West Bromwich Albion hero Ronnie Allen took over as manager and guided Wolves to promotion in 1967, with a side containing new heroes like Bailey, Wagstaff, Dugan and the talented Peter Knowles, whose decision to quit football for religious reasons at the age of only 24 shocked the Wolverhampton public.
Obviously, you're a very talented player who could have had so much.
Well, they probably do, you know, but see, I feel there's more to life than money, you see, and fame. I get a lot of happiness now of being a Jehovah's Witness. I'm content, I'm happy, and football couldn't offer me that.
With Bill McGarry now installed as manager, a new era began at Molineux, with Wolves missing out on 3rd place in the First Division only by goal difference in 1971.
At the beginning of the 70s, we had a lot of experienced quality players, people like Bailey, Monroe, Parkin, Dugan, Wagstaff, and they were the sort of basis of the team. Then we had younger players coming in within a short space of, say, a couple of years, people like myself, Kenny Hibbert, John McCall, which created a very strong team with a good blend of youth and experience and all quality players.
Here's Wagstaff. Fine shot and another brilliant goal. That's a good ball from Wagstaff, but he's hurt as he ran away. The ball with Hibbert. Richards just ahead of him. Hibbert. Yes! Dugan. Bit of a sandwich and good cover. He's made it! Derek Dugan, the scorer. John Roberts looking very unhappy with life, but I don't think Roger Kirkpatrick had any choice. McCalliog against Wilson. 4-1.
Despite beating champions Arsenal 5-1 at Molineux, Wolves failed to live up to their promise in the league in 1972. But they went all the way to the UEFA Cup final.
Chivers! Superbly taken. It struck him rather than deliberate handling. So a free kick to Wolves just outside the box. Quickly taken. Hegan, McCalliog. It's one each. Chivers. Chivers again. Gilzine spreading out square. What a shot! Hit that one out.
We'd lost it here. We lost 2-1. And with the away goals, it was always going to be difficult. It was disappointing, the UEFA Cup, because we'd done a lot against the best in Europe, beating Juventus, beating Ferencváros, and I don't really think we got the credit for those successes, because teams like Juventus, they were at the time probably the top team in Europe, but it was the fact that we knocked them out in the quarter-final and ended up meeting an English team in the final itself. It tended to take the edge off that particular competition that year, and I don't think we were given the credit for all those good performances.
In 1973, they were nearly men again, losing out to Spurs once more in the League Cup semi-final and in the FA Cup semi-final to Leeds at Main Road.
He slipped. That's Paul. Lolliman. Jones trying to feed on it. Brendan! 1-0.
I think we were almost there, and I think really it was possibly the 71, 72, 73, 74 years when we should have done a lot more. We, as you said, we missed out quite a number of times. One season we finished 5th in the league and lost in both semi-finals. And it's hard to sort of pinpoint anything to say, you know, why that happened. I think possibly we could have possibly done with 1 or 2 other players just to strengthen the squad, because we probably had about a dozen, 14 good players, and we probably needed 2 more to sort of slot in when we got injuries or people out of form. And I think that would have made the difference. I think we would have come away with more than the 1 trophy, which is what we won in 74. Law, Fanny Lee, Rodney Marsh, they had a superb squad, and we were by far the underdogs. And as with a lot of cup finals, and I'm pleased to say it was the underdogs came out on top. But I think what was pleasing about it was the performance. I think it was an excellent match, and I felt that we did deserve it on the day. I think it was everybody coming right at the same time. There were still mixed feelings during the match, because in the second half I was having problems with my pelvis. It was giving me a lot of pain, and McGarry was going to substitute me. He got Barry Powell warming up, and then, as these things happen, Dave Wagstaff went on one of his runs down the wing, pulled a muscle, and he had to come off. And in those days we only had 1 substitute, so Barry came on to replace Dave, and I stopped on and scored the winner. It was probably the highlight of my career at Wolves, because of the fact that we'd been missing out in the previous 2 or 3 seasons, and obviously scoring a winning goal at Wembley.
Taking on Michael Doherty, and that's a goal for Richards, and surely the quickest goal of the season. 15 seconds gone and Wolves in front without Burnley getting a real touch. Daly making the run, number 8, found room and found the corner of the net beautifully. What a lovely goal by Steve Daly. Now Hibbett. Shot could be on, and a beauty. 3-0, Kenny Hibbett. Now Farley on the break. Came off Waldron to Richards, and he's put Kindon through, and Daly is in the middle, completely unmarked if he can find him. There's Daly, 4-1. Still 20 minutes left, and here's Bailey for Wolves, and this time Richards in the middle unmarked. It could be 5. Yes. Richards trying to cut it, and does! Oh, beautifully done. Richards. Kelly with the chance to cross. Hibbett. And it was deflected, was it? Kick for Richards. Nattress's mistake and Richards' second goal. And again. Oh, lovely turn. Carr. And suddenly there's an avalanche.
Despite a 5-1 victory over Burnley, as well as a 5-0 thrashing of Newcastle United in the 1975-76 season, Wolves faced the daunting task in their last game of needing to beat championship-chasing Liverpool to avoid relegation. They didn't.
I actually think we were unfortunate to go down. A lot of people say that when the teams go down, but we did have a good squad of players, and I think that showed in the fact that we bounced straight back by winning the second division championship, as it was then.
Bill McGarry was replaced by his assistant Sammy Chung, and Wolves immediately bounced back. After finishing 15th in Division 1, Wolves' worst start to a season in 1978 cost Chung his job and he was replaced by John Barnwell. Wolves flirted with the drop, but did manage to reach the FA Cup semi-final, losing 2-0 to Arsenal.
We did have a sort of indifferent 3 or 4 years till it started picking up again towards the end of the 70s.
Sunderland is through. Alan Sunderland scores against his old club the goal that almost certainly means Arsenal are destined for Wembley.
It was at this time that the club launched an ambitious plan to rebuild Molineux. The first phase being the replacement of the old Molineux Street stand with an impressive cantilever structure, built well away from the pitch to allow room on the opposite side to redevelop the cramped Waterloo Road stand. Little did Wolves know that it would take 14 more years for the rest of the redevelopment to be completed, and the debt incurred in this first phase was to cause almost fatal financial turbulence. League form was much improved in the 79-80 season as Wolves finished 6th. They also reached the League Cup final after an awkward 2-legged semi against 3rd Division Swindon that Wolves eventually won 4-3 on aggregate to take them to a Wembley final once more.
A foul there by goalkeeper Paul Bradshaw on Swindon forward Alan Mays, giving them a penalty. Their captain, Ray McHale, so reliable from the spot, steps up to score after 68 minutes and make the aggregate level again at 3-3. But when Wolves snatched their winner, it was fitting that the scorer should be Richards, who got the winning goal when Wolves last won the League Cup in 1974. Now he's sent them back to Wembley again. Even though this late goal by Carr was disallowed, the result was a great therapy for the Wolves manager John Barnwell, who survived a near-fatal car crash last summer.
Well, it means an awful lot to me, but I feel it means a lot more to the club itself, because I think over the last couple of months we've proved to possibly a doubting public that we're good enough to compete with the best. I mean, you look at the league table and the teams that are above us, and we've beaten every single one of them and beaten them well. And I'm glad that the side's going to Wembley, and hopefully that we can win it for the Wolverhampton public.
Playing consistently well throughout that season and throughout the season previously. We were hit and miss, having some good games, having some bad games. We just happened to have a good run in the League Cup in 1980, and everything fell into place for us. It was our last success and my last success for a number of years, but I think you could see the signs of the decline that was coming.
Season 80-81 was a disappointment after the high of winning the League Cup. Wolves failed to pull back a 3-1 first leg deficit against PSV Eindhoven in the first round of the UEFA Cup. Their league form was erratic, and a great FA Cup run ended in a semi-final replay defeat by Spurs at Highbury.
Crooks is going through here. Oh, he's outpaced them. Crooks is there. Oh, yes! Number 2 for Crooks. Number 2 for Tottenham. And a magnificent ball by Glenn Hoddle. Here's Villa. Villa shot. Oh! 3-0. And Ricky Villa produces another marvellous moment for Spurs. Eaves. Bent in, Richards is there, it's a goal! John Richards. Parkin to Eaves, now here there could be a break for Wolves. 3 against 3, John Richards. Gray and Eaves making their way through the centre. Richards comes inside Todd. Plays it back to Eaves, and they've got a deflection and it's got in. Gray comes in on it. So does Matthews. Here's Richards. Here's Gray. Made room here. Oh, good save. Brazier.
Worse was to come in 81-82. John Barnwell departed in January and Ian Greaves arrived from Oxford. But he couldn't arrest the decline and Wolves were relegated.
I first got to know really Sir Jack in 1982, when the club was again in receivership, and we did put together a scheme at that time to try and save the club. But unfortunately, we were outbid at the death on as late as 5-5 on the Friday, and the Barty brothers and Dugan came together and took over the club.
Off the field, the financial situation was critical, and with just 5 minutes to go before an official receiver's deadline, a deal was completed to save Wolves. At the head of the takeover consortium was former Molineux hero Derek Dugan, but the money behind him came from elusive businessmen, the Barty brothers. Graham Hawkins was installed as boss and started well with a 2-1 win over Blackburn.
And now Daniel. And Eves! It's a great game, it's football, when you've just scored a goal. Here's again. It's a useful cross too. And Eves!
Dawes clearance. But here's Humphrey. Went alone. Oh, and the loan was enough. Good ball for Hibbett. Looks promising, this. Dangerous looking cross. Oh, and it's in. Wolves second. Wolves have got a lot of men forward now. In it goes to Andy Gray. That was handball, surely. A penalty. No problem for Jeff Palmer. And Wolves go into a 3-0 lead. In towards Clark. Hazel tackled him. It came to Dodd. And it's gone in. A curious way to score.
Wolves went on to clinch promotion behind champions Queen's Park Rangers. Wolves started the new season disastrously. Andy Gray was sold to Everton, and it wasn't until November the 26th that they managed their first victory.
It's all about confidence, isn't it? But how do you inject confidence into a side that still hasn't had a victory?
Well, you can say all the words, you can say all the right words, and you try to be cheerful, or different ways that you do it. I think I've tried every way possible. You try harsh words, you try kind words, and in the end, it's the players going out there. And I still think that first victory, no matter how it comes, whether we play awful and we get that victory, I think that will give a hell of a lift.
Fittingly, the first win came at the Hawthorns against local rivals Albion.
Danny Craney in possession. Wolves getting more players forward. Craney's made the opening and scores an absolute beauty. Well, it's all come right for the Scotsman, and it's all come right for Wolves. Nice body sway, releases to Clark, who is onside. Real chance here to wrap the game up. And Clark surely has done so. What a good finish by Wayne Clark. And Wolves have a 3-0 lead.
The writing was already on the wall for Wolves, who were relegated with only 8 wins that season. Hawkins left in April '84 with his assistant Jim Barron taking temporary control.
The new manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club.
Much-travelled Tommy Docherty arrived to take charge of his 13th club, but the new regime's hopes were short-lived, and Chief Executive Dugan departed in January. Relegation to Division 3 followed, and out went Docherty. Once again, the club was on the critical list, with only 300 season tickets sold for the new season, and staff unsure if they would even get paid. The ground itself was also in critical condition, with just 2 sides open. Bill McGarry returned to the scene of his former success, but stayed only 61 days, to be replaced by Sammy Chapman.
But that's only curiosity that it would be if you're in any job that's things are looking a bit, dodgy. But from the playing point of view, all they're waiting on is the start of the season, pre-season games. They look forward to it.
Presumably 2 weeks tonight, the team will be heading for Griffin Park and the opening game of a new season with Brentford.
Although the club had promising players like John Morrissey, John Purdy, and even future England keeper Tim Flowers, the ignominy of being only the second team in the league's history to drop from first to fourth in successive seasons could not be avoided. Meanwhile, the High Court was striving to sort out the tangled web of the club's financial situation, as Central News reported.
A firm of quantity surveyors and architects were applying to have the company wound up because they claim Allied owed them £127,000 for work they'd done at Molineux. The case was dismissed, though, because Mr. Justice Hoffman ruled there was a genuine doubt over who actually owed the money, Allied or an international company called Al Akbar Finance. It was claimed that Al Akbar, a Swiss-based company, have assets of £30 million, but no one has been able to trace them. It was claimed by the Barty brothers that Al Akbar are registered in Liberia. If not for that doubt over who owed the money, Mr. Justice Hoffman said he would have granted the winding up order since Allied had clearly had difficulty in meeting its debtors.
A receiver was appointed, but Wolves survived closure once more, and a deal was completed between the local council, Asda Supermarkets, and Birmingham developers Gallagher's.
It became another liability in '86 with another receivership, and Sir Jack once again had an arrangement with ourselves and Tony Gallagher, and eventually, when the club did get on its way, Sir Jack offered to back it.
Football could continue at Molineux, and Brian Little became acting manager. However, the new regime wanted Graham Turner as boss, and he took over in October 1986, and soon made a significant acquisition when he signed Steve Bull from West Bromwich Albion.
He made it clear at the Albion that he wanted me out the way. I wasn't even on any money at all down the Albion, so I couldn't see why he wanted to get rid of me. But it was a bit of a boost for them, having 50,000 or 65,000, what it was. I came here, and it was about 3 minutes, I think. I was in with the gaffer, and I says, "That's it. That'll do for me. I'll start from scratch and start at the bottom, work my way up."
Most Wolves fans thought things couldn't get any worse, but on November the 24th, 1986, they did. Non-league Chorley humiliated the once-proud Wolves 3-0 in an FA Cup first-round replay.
Chorley's second goal after an hour was scored by Mark Edwards. Then on 71 minutes, the decline of a once-famous club was compounded when Cooper got his second and Chorley's third.
When I first came to the club, we played Chorley away 3-0 in a cup match, and I thought, what are we doing here? But as you say, 65,000 in them days is a bargain. Like now you're talking millions. When I first came to the club, it was all run down. It was all ready for the doldrums, for the people to come in and take it over. But then all of a sudden, it just got it took up, and we've got here.
We've signed one or two players like Bully and Andy Thompson and from West Bromwich, and it all worked out for us in the finish. And we were unlucky to lose to Aldershot in the playoffs, and at one period we've been sixth from bottom in the league. The GM Conference looks a likely proposition, but having got past that, we went, I think it was about a 19-match run, finished with 70-odd points, 77 points, way ahead of Aldershot, but lost in the playoff. But then the following season was a big success because we won the league and the Sherpa van.
Wolves arrived at Somerton Park knowing that 1 point was all they needed to ensure promotion. Not a difficult task, but if nothing else, Newport's remaining pride was at stake. It took Wolves 20 minutes to get their first corner and a further 2 to take the lead. From Stout's free kick, Holmes nodded the ball into Steve Bull's path for an easy 49th of the season. 3 minutes later, the game as a contest was over. Downing's corner was only partially cleared. Bull made himself room to stroke the ball out of Paul Bradshaw's reach. What better way to score his 50th of the season? Almost on half-time, and his acrobatics nearly made it 3. The second half was a terrible anticlimax, and a mediocre game deteriorated. Wolves were certain of promotion, it seemed, but Newport were equally determined to spoil the party, and Steve Tupling, their captain, tucked away a good goal. In the final minute, Andy Much made it 3. Wolves were promoted.
Missing out on promotion in the playoffs in 1987, they made no mistake next season and took the Sherpavan Trophy for good measure.
85,000 made the pilgrimage to Wembley in a turnout that put recent England attendances to shame. The game itself was never a classic, but there were always enough incidents to keep the crowd on their toes. Wolves' first goal owed everything to the Bull and Much double act, with Andy Much grateful for some dubious goalkeeping. It's nearly 30 years now since Burnley won the league and Wolves the FA Cup. The Sherpavan Trophy might not generate the same quality, but the old rival's passion for the game was evident throughout. Victory for Wolves was sealed when Robbie Dennison threaded a free kick into the top corner. Andy Much almost made it 3-0, but by now the game was well under control. It might be great to play at Wembley, but it's even better to win, a fact not lost on the travelling hordes from the Black Country. The Sherpavan Trophy might not be the most prestigious they've ever won, but this season could mark an important watershed in the continued revival of one of the proudest clubs in the Football League.
Well, that gate will probably never. Well, it's got no chance of ever being repeated. I don't think. There's 80-odd thousand there for what was a fourth division final, really.
Wolves were now unstoppable, and the third division title followed. This gave them the dubious distinction of being the first club to have won all divisional titles.
Wolves took the lead just before half-time when Andy Much laid on a header for Steve Bull. But in the second half, Sheffield hit back with 2 goals in 5 minutes, the first from centre-half Stanclis. Then it was Tony Agana who made it 2-1. But a free kick from Robbie Dennison gave Wolves the point they needed for the title. The final score, Wolves 2, Sheffield United 2.
The final hurdle was promotion to the top division, but even with new owner Sir Jack Hayward's financial backing, that wasn't going to be easy.
Jack actually came in it, I think, later, because Tony Gallagher was obviously looking to sell the club, and Jonathan got very interested and came along to a lot of the matches when I was pretty well on my own, and he worked on his dad, I think, and that was the way that the deal was concluded, really. But it was done on a car park in but Plymouth Argyle. So Jack went down to see a water diviner. He was trying to get water onto one of his holdings, and he talked to me that he'd had words with Tony Gallagher and was prepared to buy the club, and that's where it started, really. Eventually, when the club did get on its way, Sir Jack offered to build a new stadium, and that was really the turning point. It's the greatest thing that's happened to this club, really, no question about that in all its history.
I mean, when we used to be in this ramshackle stadium, you know, with 2 sides derelict, the North Bank, the Cowsheds I used to call it, and the Waterloo Road stand, which is now the Billy Wright stand, when that was derelict and the terraces were up on one end and only the John Allen stand and the field miles away from the John Allen stand, I used to think it was probably, well, it was like playing in a park, but when we used to go to places like West Ham, Swindon, where the stands are absolutely packed right on the edge of the pitch, I mean, I used to say to Jonathan, this is frightening for a team to be coming out into this, and he used to say, Dad, it's worth a goal, it's worth 1 goal.
The incredible rebuilding of Molineux, financed by Sir Jack, was completed in 1993 and marked by a match against Hungarian side Honvéd. The legendary Ferenc Puskás and Billy Wright, who played in that fantastic floodlit match 39 years earlier, were present to witness the opening of the magnificent new Molineux. Graham Turner couldn't keep the momentum of his revival going, and in March 1994 he departed to be replaced by former England boss Graham Taylor. Steve Bull, one of the major factors in Wolves' renaissance, continued to pile up his goal tally, getting his 200th league goal at Southend and putting Wolves in the playoffs with his 250th Wolves goal at Tranmere.
A couple of minutes of the first half remaining. Wolves on top. Have another corner. Venus turning it back to Dennis. That's a dangerous cross by Dennis, and it's a tremendous goal! And it had to be Steve Bull.
The cross is magnificent, and the finish is typical.
McGinley, McAteer again. Sets it up for Thompson. Thompson's done well here. And he sets it up for McAteer. That's a brilliant goal by Jason McAteer. A minute gone in the second half, and Bolton are level. Thompson. Settles for the corner.
As Thompson's the player, he likes getting forward. He's an attacking-minded fullback. He's got plenty of room here. A great stage to go and show himself off and to get quality crosses in. I was a little surprised he settled for the corner there.
Header by Goodman. Turned in by Venus. Wolves regain the lead within 4 minutes.
Despite a fine performance in the first leg of the playoff semi-final at Molineux, Wolves couldn't overcome Bolton in the second leg. But this had been their highest league placing for 11 years, and their eventual restoration to the top division is surely not far away.
It's like a dream come true, actually, watching it come from the bottom of the 4th division to the 1st division, hopefully the Premier League next year. It's just unbelievable. I've got loads of trophies and things, memorabilia things to say what I've done at this club, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
There is no question that this club will eventually arrive in the Premier League. As to what it will do, I can't predict that. I mean, but I do wish it for Sir Jack and Jonathan that we shall get some success, certainly in not far too distant future.
Congratulations to this wonderful club, Wolverhampton Wanderers.